John had always preferred to sleep without any clothes because it made him feel unburdened after long days, repairing orbital drones above the frontier world of Delta Auriga. When he drifted off that night, he expected the usual gentle hum of the station's ventilation, the faint rhythm of cycling lights, and the comfort of knowing that his small module remained locked in controlled silence. Instead, he awoke to a chill that did not belong to his carefully climate-regulated room. He opened his eyes and found himself lying on a smooth, metallic surface that gleamed faintly under a row of pale lights high above his head. His heart pounded as he pushed himself upright and saw that he was alone in a chamber of unknown design, completely bare, surrounded by angled walls that pulsed with soft threads of color. He scanned the room for any sign of familiar engineering and saw nothing that resembled human craftsmanship. No seams in the panels, no tool racks, not even a visible door. He stood, and the floor warmed slightly under his feet, reacting as though it recognized movement. Strange symbols flowed across the walls like tiny ripples of liquid light. He approached the nearest surface and lifted his hand toward it, but paused before touching it, worried that it might be alive or reactive in some unpredictable way. A moment later, a vertical seam appeared on the opposite wall, parting soundlessly. A corridor stretched beyond it, curving out of sight. He inhaled slowly and stepped forward because he knew staying put would only guarantee helplessness. The corridor felt impossibly clean. The air carried a faint scent similar to ozone, and the light seemed to respond to his presence, brightening ahead and dimming behind him. As he walked, he tried to remember anything from the night before that might explain this situation, but he recalled nothing beyond falling asleep in his bunk after tightening the final bolts on drone frame 16. There had been no alarms on his station, no visitors, no signs of malfunction. And yet, here he was, miles or possibly light years from where he belonged. He turned a bend and entered a larger chamber filled with tall, crystalline columns. Some hovered inches above the floor, rotating very slowly, while others remained still, glowing from within like lanterns containing miniature storms. He approached one cautiously, noticing shapes within the swirling interior that looked almost organic, but not quite. As he leaned closer, the glowing mass shifted, forming patterns that resembled waves crashing in slow motion. The column emitted a faint hum that resonated with his chest. The sound reminded him of the deep space communication things he sometimes monitored during maintenance shifts. Except far more intricate dot, he whispered a hesitant greeting, because even if nothing understood him, it felt wrong to intrude in silence. The hum brightened in pitch as if acknowledging him. He stepped back in alarm. The chamber reacted again, opening a new passage at its far side. He felt his legs move despite his fear, because the rhythm of the lights seemed almost like guidance rather than threat. The new corridor sloped downward. He thought about how many stories he had heard of explorers who met their end chasing unknown paths in alien structures, but he also knew that standing still would not solve anything. After a long descent, he reached a vaulted hall dominated by a floating platform about 20 meters wide. Above it hovered a sphere made of shifting geometric facets. Each facet reflected his image, but distorted as though studying him from countless angles at once. He felt a sensation like static brushing across his skin, not painful, just present. A calm voice echoed around him without direction or source. It used his language flawlessly. It told him that he had been selected for observation because humans exhibited a level of determination unmatched among the many species surveyed throughout this region of space. It said that humanity had managed to thrive despite limited natural advantages compared to others, and that this resilience made humans uniquely valuable to understand. John demanded to know who or what the voice belonged to and where he was. The sphere responded that it belonged to an ancient collective dedicated to mapping the behavioral potential of emergent civilizations. He had been taken from his station temporarily so that the collective could examine his instinctive reactions to unfamiliar environments. He bristled at the idea of being treated like a specimen. He asked what gave them the right to abduct him. The sphere dimmed slightly, almost as though showing remorse, and explained that the collective followed principles that avoided harm, but did not always account for emotional impact. It had assumed that humans would view temporary displacement as a minor inconvenience. John stepped closer to the platform, anger rising in his voice as he insisted that humans, despite their resilience, valued consent and autonomy. The sphere brightened again, casting a warm glow that made the hall appear less intimidating. It expressed surprise at his emphasis on personal agency. It said that many species they observed operated with communal decision structures that rarely centered individuals. It had not expected a single human to challenge the authority of a technologically superior entity. John replied that humanity had learned to stand its ground in harsh conditions, whether deep underground during early colony struggles or high above worlds where storms of radiation threatened survival. Humans pushed back when pressured. They innovated when cornered. They adapted when everything seemed stacked against them. And above all, they fought to maintain their dignity. The sphere grew quieter, its geometric shapes slowing. It said that his reaction aligned with data collected from human explorers who had survived catastrophic encounters and returned home through ingenuity alone. Humans, according to its surveys, had repeatedly proven capable of surpassing opponents far stronger than themselves through strategy, cooperation, and sheer refusal to yield. That defiance fascinated the collective. John demanded to be returned home. The sphere told him he would be returned, but first it asked him to witness something that might interest him. A segment of the hall's floor dissolved into a window showing an enormous archive composed of countless glowing nodes. Each node represented the evolutionary path of a different species. The sphere focused on one cluster containing human data points. It showed simulations of humans facing overwhelming odds on distant planets, fighting off organisms larger than transport ships, or negotiating peace with factions built for war. It displayed how humans used creativity to solve conflicts that would have dragged other species into extinction. John watched these shifting records with growing pride, despite his anger. The simulations did not just show triumphs, but also cooperation, compassion, and inventiveness. The sphere asked him what drove humans to persist even when defeat seemed certain. John answered that humans valued more than simple survival. They valued each other. They dreamed beyond present limits. They saw potential in places where others saw only ruin. They believed in futures worth fighting for. He told the sphere that humanity did not overcome odds because it was strongest, but because it refused to let darkness define its fate. The sphere's resonance deepened. It said that this explanation provided an important insight the collective had struggled to quantify. It said that humans possessed a unique blend of emotion and logic that amplified motivation in ways no simulation could predict without direct interaction. The hall shifted and the sphere descended until it hovered at John's eye level. It projected patterns that felt like questions more than images. John sensed that it sought guidance on how to better understand humanity without violating autonomy. He told it that if the collective wanted to learn about humans, it should request cooperation rather than seize individuals without warning. He said humans responded positively when treated as partners. The sphere asked if humans would ever willingly collaborate with an ancient collective unknown to them. John said that if the collective showed respect and transparency, then many humans would be eager to participate. Curiosity, he explained, was one of humanity's strongest traits. The sphere expanded slightly and emitted a soft ripple that washed over the hall. It told him that his insights significantly altered its study parameters. It promised to initiate new protocols that required informed consent from all future participants. It then asked one final question. It wanted to know what John desired in return for his patience, his courage, and his guidance. John's answer came easily. He wanted to go home. He wanted his station restored, exactly as he left it. And he wanted the collective to remember that even individuals from small frontier stations carried within them the essence of humanity's strength. The sphere ascended again, and the room brightened. The platform beneath him dissolved, and John felt himself falling weightlessly, not in fear, but in calm suspension. Light enveloped him, erasing the hall, the sphere, and the crystalline structures. He blinked and found himself back in his bunk aboard his station. The hum of ventilation returned. His tools lay where he had placed them the night before. The station clock showed only a few minutes had passed since he had fallen asleep. For a moment he wondered if it had been a dream, but the faint warmth lingering on his skin from the sphere's resonance told him otherwise. John dressed and stepped into the corridor of his familiar station. Everything appeared intact. Yet something subtle had changed inside him. He walked to the main viewport and gazed at the star-washed void outside. He felt a renew.